So we've covered a lot of the stuff that you've done for television, Netflix, NBA. I want to now move to some of the solo artists that you've worked with, and one in particular, Meghan Trainor.
Sure, yeah.
And the song is "Don't I Make It Look Easy." Now, I'm curious how you got the call to work with Meghan, which is, of course, one of her biggest hits that she's recorded, and about the gear session, all that good stuff. So how did it all come about?
Yeah, I mean, I just got a call from her producer. He said, "Hey, it's always like, can you get this to me, yesterday?" So, but that's all right. I like a challenge. So I did it really fast, and he had it kind of mocked up. Like many people, he plays a little bit of guitar. So he kind of had it mocked up with what he wanted. Kind of just do this, but better, and then add your own stuff.
Yeah.
And I tried to not go like overboard in terms of like crazy weird sounds and stuff. It just didn't seem to match, the vibe of this song.
Yeah. Well, it definitely has like an R&B feel to it, and then some of the arrangements a little bit more modern. But
I mean, I almost kind of thought of it as like a Motown thing. Like, what would it be like if back in the day you had like 3 guitar players? What would they do?
Right.
So that was kind of my concept for this.
Right. Yeah. So you're kind of a Ray Parker thing or something like that,
a little bit,
yeah. Yeah. So, and was she there for this, or was it just all here?
No, it was all here. Actually, just all me by myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all just like a remote thing. He sent you the tracks.
Totally just self-produced, kind of.
Did you have a sense that it was going to get like hundreds of millions of plays on Spotify when you were listening to it?
No, I mean, gosh, I wish I had a crystal ball. I mean, you kind of always hope, and you do your best no matter what.
Right.
It's turned out to be a really, really nice little thing.
Just as an aside, because you've done so many. I mean, we're covering a small part of a pretty massive and illustrious career here. When you play a song, how often have you been able to call it like, oh yeah, I think this is going to make it?
Never. I mean, I usually think like everything's going to make it.
Right.
Because you're pretty, especially after you worked on it, for a few hours. Right. It's like, I mean, it's not, I didn't write it. It's not my name on the, on the cover or anything.
Right.
But it's still, they're like your kids,
Right.
So you take ownership over it. You take pride in it and try and do your best. But then it goes out there in the world, and so I mean, a lot of times it's like that track doesn't even make it on the album it could be a million reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, I would have to think on some of the Disney stuff. At least you might have a sense like, well, it's going to get exposure.
Yeah. Now I do. Now you can almost kind of tell with that stuff. Yeah.
Well, guitar wise, probably not a Jackson.
Probably not a Jackson.
What did you use?
So there's a kind of almost like a bass line. It's a guitar, but it's doing what a bass might do. And I actually used a Jerry Jones baritone.
Wow. So Dan Electro.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's a Jerry Jones version of a Dan Electro.
Yeah. And then amp wise,
I have this company. Unfortunately, they're not in business anymore. I think he should have charged like 3 times the money, and he'd still be in business. But they're called Texotica amps, and I forget how I stumbled on them. But it's kind of like an old Tweed Fender Deluxe or something. I think it's only about 9 watts or 12 watts. I forget. But it's got that that thing where you can crank it right on the edge, so if you play hard, it kind of compresses on itself.
Right.
I've used that for a lot of different stuff. And then he actually made me an outboard spring reverb unit too.
Wow.
Which is it's like the most like syrupy, drippy spring reverb thing. Really sounds killer. So I have that reverb going into the front of that.
And no pedals?
Maybe just like some little like just gain structuring kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But essentially a clean sound.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to hear you play a little bit of it. Do a little guitar switch and hear it.
Sounds good.
Don't I make it look easy, baby, when I do what I do. Don't I make it look easy, baby, I'm fooling you. I just posted a picture, read all the comments, all the good ones. If I'm being honest, I might have spent an hour on you. You won't ever see me cry, 'cause I've got a filter for every single lie. Don't make it look easy, baby. life, but you